So mga kabanat, ito yung karugtong, no? Kahagabi kasi umalis ako. Hindi ko naabutan itong pag-interview ni Senador Gordon dito sa ano tawag nito, Pharmally. At ang kausap niya dito sila Lincoln Ong, si yung CPA ng Pharmally. Kung saan mga kabanat, pag ako si itong kausap nito, sarap to, parang kulang na lang pagmumurahin mga to eh. Lalo na yung mga sagot ni Lincoln Ong. Makita mo talaga mga kabanat na yung mga rason nila o dahilan nila ay labo eh. 'Di ba? Ang lagi nilang dinahilan na ayaw daw nila ma-incriminate yung kanilang yun daw ang sabi ng mga lawyers nila. At isa pang dahilan nila ay nahabol na daw sila ng BIR. Kaya hindi nila masagot yung mga tanong ng mga senador. Kahit daw nasa kulungan sila ay hinahabol na sila ng BIR. Mantakin mo yung mga alibay nila mga kabanat na nakakaano eh. Pag ako dito sa mga senador na ito, mga ito dapat i-firing squad na ito eh. I-firing squad na yan o di kaya ibilad dyan sa Manila Bay. Tamang-tama sa panahon ngayon, sobrang init. Itali mo yan doon sa at saka painitan, palanggaman para matuto. Wala silang nakuhang wala kang makukuhang mga kabanat, no? At wala kang makukuhang tamang impormasyon sa mga tao na ito. Kung hindi siguro pag ako nito sampahan na ng kaso at saka ilublob sa kumukulong mantika. Gaganon. Wala kang makukuha dito kahit anong gawin mong hearing, ulit-ulit na hearing, ganyan pa rin naman ang isasagot. 'Di ba, mga kabanat? Panoorin niyo itong pagtatanong ni Senador Drilon dito ay uminit din yung ulo. Medyo kalmante itong si Senador Trilon, baka kasi ma-high blood ina-adjust niya rin ang kanyang sarili sa mga tanong niya dito kina Lincoln Ong, Dardani at itong CPA nila na si Mariano. So panoorin niyo ito mga kabanat. Alam ko napanood niyo rin ito kagabi pero alang-alang dahil gagawin ko nga ang ginagawa ko ay para ma-highlights yung bawat senador na nagtatanong at makukuha natin yung issue talaga. So panoorin niyo ito.
Who is supposed to also to be a partner, they are not in the addresses found. Now, let me ask Mr. Lincoln Ong.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. What again, for the record, what was your position in your company, in Pharmally?
I'm a supply chain manager, Mr. Chairman.
You're a what?
Supply chain manager, Mr. Chairman.
Chain manager. As supply chain manager, you would, it was part of your duty to look for suppliers of materials which you would sell to PSDBM. Is that correct?
Yes. Ano po?
Okay, I'll go direct to the point. Did you know Ever Marketing?
Mr. Chairman, the last time it was your birthday and then I already answered my question and then medyo nagalit po kayo sa akin. Kasi Mr. Chairman, these questions kasi leads to the BIR issues eh. And then si BIR po, hinahabol kami hanggang sa kulungan. Hindi ko na pwedeng mag-further comment. Huwag naman po sana kayo magalit ulit sa akin today, Mr. Chairman.
Alam mo, kaya na alam ng buong bansa na talagang may tinatago kayo. Simple lang ang tanong ko po, kilala nyo ba itong si Evermore Marketing?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I cannot further comment. Yun din po yung talagang advice po ng lawyers po namin. Huwag naman po kayo magalit sa akin.
Okay. Ngayon, paano nyo po, how did you come up with the figure of 7.3 billion as the cost of your sales of the cost of the supplies you provided PSDBM?
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned in several instances already na when it comes to yung mga figures, mga accounting records, I really cannot comment on it. Huwag naman po talaga kayo magalit sa akin, Mr. Chairman.
Because you cannot comment on it because?
Kasi po, yung sabi ko nga po, grabe po yung BIR hanggang sa kulungan. Umaabot talaga yung letter nila. hanggang sa detention, umaabot yung letter nila.
Yes.
Yun po talaga advice ng lawyers namin na stop incriminating ourselves.
Mhm. Now, okay, itong si Mr. Dargani. Mr. Dargani, you hold the position of treasurer. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So, did you pay for the supplies which Evermore provided Pharmally Pharmaceuticals?
Whatever's on the record, we have paid.
Sorry, sir.
Whatever's on record, we have paid.
Okay, so the record and your submissions to the BIR indicate that you paid 2.99 2,990,000,000 to Ever Marketing and Supply Company. Do you know this company?
I don't know them personally, Your Honor.
But you made payments to them.
The company made payments to them.
Yes, I mean, the company made payments to them. Is that correct? Yes,
Your Honor.
yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And you signed the checks, I assume, for this amount. Mr. Durgani, you remember making this payment?
I signed checks, but I don't remember all the checks that I've signed, Your Honor.
Now, the submissions to the BIR indicate that while you asserted that you purchased from suppliers over 7.3 billion, which supplies you sold to PSDBM, it would appear that you can only name Evermore and Acme as the suppliers. There were no other suppliers indicated in your submissions to the BIR. May we know why this is so? Bakit po walang ibang suppliers na nakalagay doon sa inyong submission sa BIR except Evermore and Acme? Can you explain this?
Sorry, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. I cannot explain as to why that's the only thing that shows up in the BIR system.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. What I mentioned is I'm not sure why that's the only companies appearing in the BIR system.
That is your submission to the BIR, not appearing in the BIR system. That you could only specify Evermore and Acme as your suppliers. That is why there is a question raised by Mr. Abrea that there appears to be 3.5 billion from unknown suppliers because you did not indicate who the suppliers are, and yet this appears to be part of the supplies which you sold to PSDBM. So this is from your own submission, if I get the submission of Mr. Abrea correctly. How do you explain this?
From my recollection, I remember our accountant, our outsourced accountant mentioned before that we have given other lists as well. And we are also surprised as to why the BIR only has these two companies.
Well, because from what appears in the BIR records, we cannot help but come to the conclusion that these are fictitious sales because Evermore is not cannot be found in the address they stated. The partners who appear to be partners in the Evermore in the business cannot be found in the addresses. The same with Acme, and you have 3.5 billion that cannot be accounted for. So you cannot blame the committee and the Senate if we come to a conclusion that these are fictitious sales, fictitious purchases. And if these are fictitious purchases, you even cheated on your income tax payments. All of the 7.3 billion that you got from the PSDBM should be considered all as income, not only 100 million as it is being made to appear. Can that conclusion be supported, Mr. Abrea, on the basis of what you see?
Mr. Chairman, because they claim it as deductible expenses, Mr. Chairman.
And if they cannot show proof that indeed these are deductible expenses, meaning if Evermore is the existence of Evermore is even doubtful, and you say 3.5 billion are unknown suppliers, is it possible that all of this are fraudulent claims for deduction?
Mr. Chairman, according to the rules of our tax code, the burden of proof is on the taxpayers who are claiming the deductions, Mr. Chairman. Therefore, if they cannot show proof that there was really a legitimate purchase with supporting documents, then yes, Mr. Chairman, you are correct on your conclusion.
And at this point, Mr. Dargani, Lincoln Ong, you will refuse to show us any documents in support of these deductions you claim in your financial statements and in your income tax return. Is that correct? Yes, I'm asking a question. At this point, you would refuse to show us any documents, and you have refused to show this committee, and you refuse to answer this committee on any question relative to what appears as the cost of sales in your financial statements.
Mr. Chairman, I always try to answer this committee's question as to other issues. I really have to talk to our lawyers to refrain from incriminating ourselves. And then yun lang po, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Dargani, would you have the same answer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll have the same answer as Mr. Ong.
All right. Who are your auditors again? Is for the record, because I've asked questions from the auditor. Who are your auditors who prepared your financial statements?
Ms. Iluminada Sebial.
Okay,
Our outsourced accountant is Mr. Jeff Mariano.
Jeff. Okay. 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 Can I first ask Iluminada Sebial again? She's still around, I assume. Miss Sebial, are you around?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Yes. Did you prepare the income tax return of Pharmally?
No, Mr. Chairman, he prepared the financial statements.
You
Yes,
prepared
Jeff
the financial statements. Who prepared the income tax return?
Jeff Mariano also.
Okay, Jeff Mariano, you're around?
Here po, Mr. Chairman.
All right, now, our resource person, Mr. Mon Abrea, said that in his findings, 3.5 billion, which is claimed as a deduction, are from unknown suppliers. Did you examine these purchases made by Pharmally Pharmaceutical in the course of your preparation of the income tax return?
Examine, no, sir.
Huh?
Um, on the word, sir, no. Examine po, hindi. However, we just relied on what documents are available.
Okay. On what basis did you claim, did you indicate that 7.3 billion were purchases made by Pharmally in the course of the doing business with PSDBM? What documents did you use?
Supplier invoices po.
Supplier,
Invoices.
I'm sorry?
Supplier invoices.
Supplier invoices. Did you see the supplier invoices for Evermore and Upton?
Yes, sir, I recall.
You recall, all right. What about for the remaining the other 3.5 billion, or the balance between what Evermore invoices and the total inventory purchased? Did you also see them?
Yes, sir, I recall there were a lot more suppliers than only these gathered from BIR.
Can you recall which suppliers are this?
No, sir. Some of which kasi po is Chinese names. So yung
Ano?
some of them po kasi are Chinese, so mahirap pong kabisaduhin, sir.
Tinanong mo ba sila si Mohit Dargane or si Lincoln Ong on these documents?
Tinanong, sir, and no need na po, sir, kasi we already have it on hand during then.
Well, I'm sorry?
During then, sir, when we summarize and compile the documents, everything was written, sir.
Okay. What are these documents now? Did you have copies of them?
No po, sir.
Sorry?
None, sir, none.
No, you didn't.
None.
Why?
Sir, in practice po kasi, no, pag manual bookkeeping po, these are very high volume documents. Impractical po for us outsourced bookkeepers to create a copy, whereas pwede naman po namin i-access yon on-site.
Okay. But in the age of technology, you need not be in possession of the physical documents, but through electronics, you can have a file. Did you have a file of this?
As to the current digital age, sir, yes, that's correct. However po, sir, there are case-to-case po, sir, yung process, whether a certain company would like hard copy, another company would like it in digital. So, in the case po kasi of Pharmally, they had it in hard copy, sir.
In the case of Pharmally, how was it done?
Hard copies po.
Hard copies, walang electronic.
What we gathered, sir, were all hard.
So you examined all these hard copies. I remember, Mr. Mariano, I'm reminding you, you are under oath.
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So did you see copies, physical copies of these invoices?
Yes po, sir.
But you could not recall any of them.
Again, sir, yung the names po kasi are Chinese sounding. So, that's what makes it difficult for me po to recall yung Chinese names.
What about Miss Sibyal? Did you have an opportunity to examine Evermore invoices, which is 2.99 billion? Miss Sibyal?
No, Mr. Chairman.
You did not examine them. Hindi niyo po nakita itong mga invoices ng Evermore?
Opo, listahan lang po ang binigay sa akin no, kaya hindi ko na po na-check.
Listahan lang, walang mga invoices.
Opo.
So, okay. Ito pong, maliban po sa Evermore and Acme na 2.99, almost 2.99 billion and Acme of over 700 million. Mayroon po bang ibang listahan na pinakita sa iyo?
Hindi ko na po natatandaan mo, Mr. Chairman eh.
Pero ang malaala mo lang, puro lang listahan ang pinakita sa iyo.
Opo.
Hindi ba tungkulin po ninyo na tingnan naman kung totoo itong listahan na pinapakita sa inyo naging base ng audited financial statements?
Basta nag-base lang po ako sa ibinigay lang pong listahan.
Okay. Sino nagbigay sa inyo ng listahan?
Ang Pharmally po.
Oo, pero ang Pharmally, hindi tao yan eh. Sino sa Pharmally ang magbigay sa inyo ng listahan? Miss Iluminada, sino
Yes.
sa Pharmally ang bigay sa inyo ng listahan?
Bali po si Mr. Si Mr. Jeff Mariano po.
Si Mr. Jeff yan. Pinakita sa iyo ni Mr. Jeff Mariano yung listahan.
Opo.
Listahan lang, walang mga sales invoice.
Listahan lang po.
Listahan.
Parties.
Si Mr. Abria, inyo,
Mr. Chairman.
yes. Okay. Can you please, Mr. Abria, you're
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
can you comment on the way this audit was, the financial statements and the income tax return were prepared, particularly on the deductions, on the basis of the statements of these two members of your profession?
Mr. Chairman, base po sa financial reporting standards, dapat po na examine or na audit po ng auditor or ni Ms. Sabial lahat po ng supporting documents. At base naman po sa obligasyon o responsibilidad nung nag-prepare ng financial statements at nag-prepare ng mga tax returns at yung mga schedules, dapat po ito po ay lahat base din sa mga supporting documents, mga valid supporting documents, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jeff Mariano, sino po ang kausap niyo sa Pharmally tungkol sa mga invoice, mga suppliers invoice?
Sometimes po si Miss Crisel at other times
Sino?
at times po sir si Miss Crisel Mago, and there are sometimes si Mr. Boy Terganet.
It's not very clear. Pakiulit lang po, dahan-dahan. Sino po ang kausap niyo sa Pharmally na siyang nagsasabi kung ano yung mga suppliers invoice na dapat isama sa financial statements? Sino po?
Sir, iyan ko lang po, qualify ko lang po. We just get the kay Mr. Dargani po, no? Pero whether or not dapat isama, pag binigay na po sa sinasama po natin lahat.
You, just to answer my question, si Muhit Gani ang nagbibigay sa iyo ng mga listahan.
Yung mga documents po, sir.
ng mga documents. Anong document kasama ang listahan ng suppliers?
Bali sir, kami na po yung naglilista.
Isa pakisagot lang, si Mr. Dargani ba ang nagbigay sa inyo ng listahan ng mga suppliers?
No sir, opo.
Ha?
Hindi po,
Ano?
hindi po. Listahan sir, hindi po.
Saan niyo po nakuha ang listahan?
Hindi sir, bali ang nangyari po, nakuha namin yung mga hard copy and then ilista po namin sa libro.
Nakuha niyo yung mga hard copies at ang ilista niyo sa libro. Saan niyo nakuha yung mga hard copies?
Sa office po nila sir.
Sa office nila. Sino sa office nila ang may hawak nito mga hard copies na ito?
Under Sir Mohit po.
Sino?
Sir Mohit. Mohit Dargan.
Si Mr. Dargani,
Yes sir.
ang may hawak ng mga dokumento.
To clarify lang sir, under his under his direction po kasi siya po yung treasurer.
Upon his direction dahil siya ang treasurer.
Apo, technically sir nasa cabinet po siya. So
Okay. So siya ang nagsasabi kung ano ang dapat ilagay doon sa financial statements, particularly on the deductions from the gross income. Tama po ba yun?
well, hindi niya sir, to clarify lang sir, no, hindi po niya sinasabi. He just gives us the documents and then we summarize and yun na po yung report.
He gives you the documents
Yes sir.
and then
And then from there we summarize and create the report.
you summarize it.
Yes po.
Did you show these documents to Ms. Sibyal to provide support for the entries that she made in the financial statements?
No, Mr. Chairman.
What? No.
Hindi po, hindi po.
Bakit?
Hindi naman po niya hiningi, sir.
Ano?
Hindi po niya hiningi.
Hindi niya hiningi, kaya hindi mo binigay.
Yes po.
Pero alam mo naman na kailangan makita ito ng auditor.
Yes, sir. Also, sir, no, to give light lang po on this, no, ang process po kasi ng audit, ang manghihingi po, sir, would be the auditor. Pipiliin lang po niya yan.
So kasalanan ni Ms. Sibyal kung bakit nagkabuhol-buhol itong inyong reporting. Hindi niya hiningi ang bilang auditor, hindi niya hiningi yung mga support documents. Ganun bang ibig mong sabihin?
Sir, ang sinasabi ko lang po is hindi ko po ibinigay kasi hindi naman po hiningi.
Kaya nga hindi niya hiningi. O sige, Ms. Sibyal, bakit hindi mo hiningi yung mga supporting documents like supplier's invoice?
Ang hiningi ko lang nga po, listahan.
Bakit listahan ng hiningi mo? Hindi ba tungkulin mo na tingnan yung mga supporting documents ng listahan? Ang lista na ibinigay sa inyo? Alam niyo po, kaya kami nagtatanong ng ganito. Dahil lang sa mukhang may mga tinatago kayo lahat eh. You tend to protect the Darganes. You tend to protect Lincoln Ong and whoever is involved here. Because very simple questions. I'm not an accountant, but logic tells me that when you prepare an audited financial statement, you look at the supporting documents. Eh dito, sinabi ni Jeff Mariano, hindi mo raw hiningi. At sabi ni Jeff Mariano, listahan lang ang ibinigay sa iyo. Of course, he is now trying to shield the Darganes and say, parang siya lang ang gumawa nito. Because it would appear that these transactions, there were invoices that made it appear that purchases were made. Could not be produced. The suppliers' addresses were non-existent. Kaya po hindi po namin maiwasan. Ako, hindi ko maiwasan na isipin na ito yung mga fictitious transactions at walang binenta doon sa PSDBM dahil wala namang inventaryong dumating. Pwede po ba yun? Hindi nyo nakita yung invoices Illuminada ni CBR? Hindi nyo po nakita yung supplier's invoice. Kaya pwedeng non-existent itong mga alleged purchases dito.
Hindi po.
Ano?
Hindi ko po nakita po. Listahan lang nga po.
Kaya nga po, listahan lang. At posible na walang supplier's invoice talaga. Kasi listahan lang ang nakita mo. Pwede po ba yun? Okay, so just for the record, the witness could not answer the questions that we have raised. Mr. Abrea, can you give us an expert opinion on the validity of this of the financial statements and the income tax return from the point of view of the support documents that we cannot see or that are not available?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
dapat po lahat ng kinlim na expenses, Mr. Chairman, particularly yung purchases, sa pagpe-prepare pa lang po ng financial statements at tax returns, dapat po ito ay nasubmit din sa BIR. Kaya po pinagbasihan natin yung submission ng BIR, yung summary list of purchases and importations. Kasi po hindi po tayo pwedeng mag-claim ng expenses, particularly po yung purchases, kung wala pong supporting documents. Ngayon po, kung may supporting documents naman po yun o wala, yun naman po trabaho ng auditor para masigurado na yung sinabit sa BIR at kinlim na deductions ay tama. Maliban na lamang po during BIR audit, which sa pagkakaalam ko po ay ino-audit na sila ni BIR, hihingin din po ulit ni BIR yon kung talaga pong yung mga summary list of purchases at importation ay may valid na supporting documents. Kaya lang nga po, base po sa mga dokumento na pinag-aralan natin at nasumite ng komite, lumalabas po na talagang may 3.5 billion sa kanilang purchases. Ang hindi naman po ni-report sa BIR, pero po kinlame sa kanilang financial statements, na-report sa kanilang financial statements, Mr. Chairman. Base naman, doon naman po sa pagpe-prepare ng financial statements bago po i-audit, kung tama po ang sinabi ni Mr. Jeff Mariano na ito naman po ay base sa lahat ng suppliers invoices at mga resibo, dapat po meron po talaga tayong source document o listahan na sino-sino po yung mga suppliers na binayaran at kung tutuusin po, hindi naman po kailangang i-secure lahat po yung actual documents kung talaga pong nakita naman niya. Pero dapat po kasi may working paper po, lalo na yung auditor, pagdating po dun sa pagbabalanse at pag-audit ng FS. So, para po sa base po sa mga standards, parehas po may responsibilidad ang nag-prepare ng FS at yung nag-audit ng FS, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Jeff, can you submit to us your working papers in which you utilized or which you used in preparing the income tax return? Trial runs and all?
Mr. Chairman, ang ginamit lang po namin in preparation of the FS and ITR is yung books lang po.
Yung alon? Yung alin?
Yung libro po, sir.
Yung libro.
Opo.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Nasaan ito mga libro ngayon?
It's with Pharmally's office po, sir. Sa office po na Pharmally.
Mr. Ong, can you submit to us these books
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned in the previous hearing, matagal na po ako nakakulong. Hindi ko po talaga alam saan yung mga papeles na yan. Ang tagal na po ako nakakulong for magpo-4 months na po. I have no idea.
Yes. Kaya ka nakakulong kasi ayaw mong sabihin, ayaw mong sagutin ang mga tanong ng komite at base doon sa desisyon ng Korte Suprema, habang hindi mo kami sinasagot, may kapangyarihan kaming ikulong ka. Naintindihan mo po ba yun? Under the decisions of the Supreme Court, so long as you refuse to answer valid questions raised to you, and so long as you refuse to supply the documents in your possession which are needed in this investigation, we have the authority to continue to order your detention. In any case, yes. Yes, you want to say something?
Mr. Chairman, no po. Sabihin ko sana, kausapin ko rin ulit yung lawyer ko. Kasi I cannot really comment on anything. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Hindi po pinagbabawal na kausapin mo ang abogado mo. Kausapin mo. Baka sakali kung makausap mo, baka sakali kung sagutin nyo kami, baka po hindi na kayo i-detain. Because that is the only basis of the detention that you are now undergoing. It's the fact that you refuse to answer questions of this committee. And ako mismo, mga tinatanong ko, lihiti mo naman po mga tanong ito eh. Gusto namin malaman ano ang katotohanan. Wala pa naman kayong kasong kriminal, hindi po ba? Wala pang naisasampa sa inyo.
Meron po yata kayong report last time. Ang dami niyo pong kaso na isasampa sa amin. As far as I can remember.
Sino nagsampa?
Parang meron po kayong prelim report eh. I cannot remember. Ayun nga po, as per advice of our counsel, stop incriminating ourselves.
Mr. Lincoln Ong, I have not mentioned in any hearing that there are criminal cases filed against you. I am not aware of any, and therefore I could not have mentioned it. You have served with any notice of hearing in any criminal case. Have you been, is that correct?
So far wala pa po, pero nakakulong na po ako.
So far, wala pa. So, a claim mo that you will incriminate yourself, that's not, is not really based on any criminal case filed against you, but simply on the basis of your fear that it can incriminate you. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, baka pwede po yung ulitin yung tanong, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, liwanagin ko. Wala kayong hinaharap na kaso ngayon.
Tama po, pero nakakulong na po ako.
Sorry?
Tama po, wala po ako hinaharap na kaso, pero nakakulong na po ako.
Nakakulong kayo dahil ayaw yung sugatin ang tanong namin. Liwanagin po natin yan. Yan po ay sang-ayon sa ating batas at sang-ayon sa desisyon ng Korte Suprema. Ngayon, kung kausapin mo ang abogado mo at malaya kang kausapin ang abogado mo, pwede mo ba sa kanyang tanungin kung itong mga tanong namin ay pwede mong sagutin? Wala namang kaso ngayon.
Mr. Chairman, to answer your question kanina, wala talaga sa akin ng dokumento. So, hindi ko rin talaga maibigay sa iyo kahit gusto ko talaga, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, wala mo naman po gustong magpakulong sa Senado. Kung kaya ko lang sagutin, sana po sinagot ko na. Kung kaya ko po ibigay, sana binigay ko na po. Kasi tagal-tagal ko na po nakakulong dito, Mr. Chairman.
Sino may hawak itong mga dokumentong ito?
Mr. Chairman, 4 months na po ako nakakulong. So 4 months na akong isolated from outside world. I really don't know, Mr. Chairman. Kung alam ko lang po, sana po sinabi ko na po.
Mr. Nargani, sino may hawak itong mga dokumentong ito? Who holds this document?
Mr. Chairman, as mentioned, I also don't know as I left the country in August. So so I don't know where these documents are. And our office lease has also expired, so I don't know. The office is no longer existent as well.
You know, Mr. Dargane, do you realize that you have to produce these documents anyway in the investigation of the BIR? Otherwise, these deductions will not be allowed, and you'll be taxed on the entire 7.3 billion that you received from PSDBM.
I'm aware of that, and when if that is it, then we will answer it in the proper forum.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have again
Mga kabanat, sa haba ng pagdinig, nakita nyo, halos nasa 40 minutes itong pagtatanong ni Senador Drilon. Di ba? Nasa 40 minutes itong pagtatanong ni Senador Drilon. Pero ni isa, wala kang nakikita diyang may sinagot na tama itong tauhan o mga taga Pharmally. Tingnan mo, si Lincoln may nisagot ba tama na talagang nakakuha ka ng impormasyon? Itong CPA na si Mariano, itong CPA na si Iluminada, at itong si Dardani. Wala kang nakukuha ang sagot doon na tama. Puro alibay, dahilan, palusot. Mantakin mo, tatanungin mo kung saan yung mga dokumento, sasabihin nila, I'm sorry Mr. Sir kasi matagal na akong nakakulong dito. Hindi ko na alam kung saan. Ay, imposible mga kabanat. Kumpanya kayo. Ano klaseng kumpanya? Ano yung kumpanya nyo? Ano lang? Tindahan lang? Parang nasa gilid-gilid lang dyan sa talipapa na pwede mong maintindihan mo sana yung kung ganyan yun. Talipapa lang yung tindahan nila eh. Diba? Kung ganyan yung kumbaga yung market nila o yung pagiging kumpanya nila ay parang talipapa lang, siguro naintindihan natin yung mga dokumento nila, hindi nila na italang mabuti. Pero bilyon ang kinuha nilang kontrata mga kabanat eh. Pero na isa wala silang maipakita, puro alibay. Puro sasabihin nila ay hinahabol na sila daw ng BIR. Diba? At saka ito namang mga senador, dapat siguro i-finalize na nila yan. Diba? Ipatugis na lang nila siguro sa kapulisan itong mga hinahanap nila. Marami kasi silang hinahanap mga kabanat eh, na hindi talaga sumaipot. Halimbawa, itong kalimutan ko. Meron ako dito kaso lang naka-record kasi hindi ko rin makita. Titingnan ko like itong marami silang pinaghahanap na mga tapulano, mga hindi na mahagilap ngayon eh, na parang sinabi nila involved din dito. Diba? Tingnan mo, sa haba-haba ng pagtanong, halos sa haba, pero ni isa wala silang nakukuhang impormasyon. Diba? Puro alibay. Lagi nilang dinadahilan. Sinabi daw ng attorney nila wag na magsalita. Baka makompromise itong mga investigasyon ng imposible. Tapos sasabihin hindi nila alam kasi nasa kulungan nila at lagi nila sinasabi hinahabol sila ng BIR kahit doon nasa kulungan sila. At hindi naintindihan ng mga to, matatalino ng mga to, bakit sila nakakulong? Hindi nila naintindihan talaga eh. Sinabi nga ni Senador Drilon, nakakulong kayo dahil nga hindi kayo magsabi ng totoo. Yun lang naman ang pinaka-reason din. Hindi ko magets bakit ang titigas ng ulo ng mga tao. Dapat tuluyan na. Bagamat alam nila siguro itong mga Dardani, Lincoln, kasi alam nila may pera sila. So kaya nilang bayaran yung mga abogado. Okay lang na nandyan sila kasi may kaya naman sila. Pero kung mahirap yan, talagang siguro nagsasalita na yan noon pa. Kaso lang dahil makapangyarihan sila, mayroong silang pera talaga na panggasto sa abogado. Okay lang magbingi-bingihan mo na kumbaga tingnan mo ginagawa nila. Ayaw sabihin yung totoo talaga. Imposible kasi sa akin mga kabanat. Imposible na hindi mo alam yung dokumento. Imposible na sa laki-laki ng halaga tila halos lahat ng mga detalye ay nakalimutan mo. Ultimong pagbili ng halaga ng isang PPE ay halos hindi na nila maintindihan. Hindi na nila maalala. Ano yun? Akala mo milyon na item. Kumbaga, akala mo para sa biglang tingin mo parang siya eh. Parang cashier sa department store na halos oras-oras ganong karaming dumaan na mga bumibili sa kanila. No? Napaka-imposible kasi na hindi mo maintindihan, hindi mo maalala yung mga dokumento. Doon pa lang ay magtataka ka na mga kabanat eh. At sana managot at managot. Saka tingnan mo, sa haba-haba ng hindi nila sinabi kung ilan yung supplier ng mga PPE nila. Hindi nila diniklara. Siguro yun ang dahilan kaya ayaw nila ipakita. Ayaw nila ilabas itong tinatawag na box, mahiwagang black box na hanggang ngayon ay hindi nila ipinabinigay kung saan ito. Kasi mabubuking sila doon eh. Makikita lahat ng mga transaksyon doon. Makikita lahat doon na wala palang record. Yun siguro yung pinaka doon. So yun lang muna mga kabanat, sa mamaya ipapakita ko na naman sa iyo itong interview. Yung pagtatanong ni Senador Gordon. Mamaya sigurong hapon. Itong kay Miss Mago na naman.